On July 16, 2013, Italian astronaut Luca Parmitano donned a specially designed spacesuit. With an eager heart, he stepped out of the International Space Station ISS to begin his first spacewalk. But he never imagined that very fateful walk would cause him to deteriorate so drastically that he would lose his life. While conducting a spacewalk, or extravehicular activity, an unexpected incident suddenly occurred. Where did the water rise from, flooding all the way up to your helmet? The water rose up to his ears, nose, and eyes, making it nearly impossible for Luca to breathe, hear, or see anything. It was an utterly tragic situation. He could barely see a thing and was completely lost, with no idea how to find his way back to the ISS module. Could it be that death has arrived? But a fierce survival instinct and the clear mind of an Air Force officer enabled him to fight death until the very last moments. Amidst the chaos, he suddenly remembered his work safety boots. He clung to the owl's shoelace and the ISS handrail, finding his way back to the airlock just in the nick of time before he could drown inside his own spacesuit. The event that year became one of the most horrifying moments in the history of the ISS space station. This event left a profound awareness in subsequent generations of astronauts about the ever-present dangers lurking in space. How difficult and dangerous is walking in space? We cordially invite you to join us in the exploration. Spacewalks have become a regular activity in the lives of astronauts aboard the International Space Station, ISS. The ISS is a massive scientific laboratory operating in low Earth orbit. The station is located approximately 400 kilometers from our planet's surface and has a mass of about 420 tons. The space station began construction in 1998 with the launch of its first modules into orbit. As of now, the International Space Station, ISS, has been in operation for 25 years. Therefore, the station occasionally requires maintenance, upgrades, and even emergency repairs when incidents occur. To carry out these tasks in space, scientists have installed a giant robotic arm named Cognadum-2, representing an exceptionally intelligent solution. However, this arm is only 18 meters long, so it cannot reach the entire ISS. Therefore, in areas where robotic arms cannot operate, scientists are forced to venture directly into space to conduct repairs and installations. Walking in space is extremely complex and dangerous. It is nothing like the simple morning walks we often take for exercise. To prepare for spacewalks, scientists must first put on spacesuits that are both bulky and heavy, weighing up to 136 kilograms, and they must wear them for many hours at a time. They also had to face countless unpredictable dangers, such as solar radiation, cosmic dust, space debris, micrometeoroids, extreme temperatures, or any other unexpected incidents. In the zero-gravity environment at an altitude of 400 kilometers, even the slightest mistake could cost an astronaut their life. On a morning in 2013, aboard the International Space Station, ISS, Chris Cassidy is a NASA astronaut and also a U.S. Navy SEAL. On his 43rd morning in space, he woke up out of habit and the first thing he did was open his laptop to check the daily work report. On the video feed, Chris Cassidy promptly received an urgent report from Mission Control about an incident occurring outside the International Space Station, ISS. This is not an emergency, but it needs to be fixed as soon as possible. After discussing with the 5 other astronauts in the module, Chris Cassidy decided to wait for Italian astronaut Luca Parmitano, who was about to board the International Space Station, ISS, to join him in a spacewalk to assess and resolve the issue. Luca Parmitano is a young and talented aerospace engineer with the European Space Agency, ESA. He has amassed 4 years of experience working on space missions and is a former fighter pilot for the Italian Air Force. With 2,000 flight hours across 40 different aircraft types and extensive experience as a diver, Luca Parmitano quickly earned Chris Cassidy's trust. That is precisely why the commander decided to undertake this crucial mission with Luca Parmitano. The final days before the execution of the death sentence. A week later, on July 16, 2013, 2 astronauts, Chris Cassidy and Luca Parmitano, having fully suited up in their space gear, conducted a spacewalk to repair a fault on the exterior of the International Space Station, ISS. While Chris Cassidy, holding onto the Lankin bracket, moved along the ISS to the data cable source area to repair a short circuit, below him, Luca Parmitano was moving to the connector area and external piping on a section of the station's framework called the Z1 truss. Initially, the work went smoothly, and both completed their tasks 5 minutes faster than the planned 45 minutes. As Luca Parmitano moved to a different area of the International Space Station, ISS, to weld cracks that had appeared on the Zvezda module, he suddenly felt that something was wrong and noticed fluid accumulating behind his neck. Commenting on the situation, Luca Parmitano stated that there was a small hole in the back of his helmet to supply oxygen from the backpack. And of course, the substance being transported through that small hole could not be water. He understood the spacesuit intimately. He knew for a fact that water was being pumped to circulate continuously through the cooling system of the suit he was wearing, but all of that liquid was completely sealed in. There was no way water could have leaked out and appeared on the back of his neck like this. The worst has finally happened. The water began to rise steadily inside his suit. Initially, water had seeped into the headset's internal microchip, disrupting communications with mission control and with Chris Cassidy. At this point, Luca Parmitano decided to return to the ISS airlock. However, the movement became difficult as water began to flood into the 36-year-old astronaut's nose and eyes, preventing him from breathing and obscuring his vision. The situation was extremely critical, but as an experienced diver, Luca Parmitano was perfectly capable of holding his breath for several minutes. In a moment hanging by a thread, his fierce survival instinct and sharp mind as a pilot enabled him to fight death until the very last second. In the midst of panic, fortunately, he suddenly remembered the cable. That was the very thing. He followed the rescue cable and the handrails along the ISS station to return to the module. When Chris Cassini noticed his teammate was in trouble, he quickly moved to Luca Parmitano's position to assist. Finally, Luca Parmitano has reached the wind hold. Just then, Chris Cassini arrived. He helped his teammate back into the cockpit and then quickly removed the watertight helmet to free Luca. Thanks to the skillful first aid administered by his crewmates in the capsule, Luca Parmitano finally regained consciousness and pulled through the critical condition. Luca recounted the terrifying experience he had been through in his life. At that moment, the feeling was truly dreadful. I have never experienced anything like this in my life. Like a blindfolded person raised to a height of 400 kilometers, while the water keeps relentlessly rising, submerging your mouth, nose, and eyes. I once thought I would never know what love is, and the worst thing for me at that time was death. Whether it came early or late, it would still be utterly dull. There was a moment when I wanted to open my helmet. I knew it was a terrible idea, that it would cause me to fall into a coma instantly. However, the feeling of the bird dying right inside that small hat truly was an experience that haunted me for my entire life. Luca Parmitano's absolute composure and years-honed fortitude enabled him to escape perils spectacularly in an instant. This extremely serious incident has become one of the most horrifying moments in ISF's history. The agency has established a dedicated task force to investigate the cause of the water leak into the Italian astronaut's helmet. However, 6 months into the mission of Luca Parmitano and Chris Cassidy, engineers have not yet been able to determine the exact cause of the coolant leak. However, they subsequently made rapid improvements to the spacesuit for subsequent developments. Engineers installed an additional emergency oxygen tube in the astronaut's helmet as a precaution in case this dangerous incident recurs. The spacesuit is not merely a garment to be worn. Moreover, this is the key factor that enables them to complete the work safely. However, even a small mistake can cause it to backfire and directly threaten the astronauts' lives. The case of Luca Parmitano is the clearest and most vivid example. You might think there's only one type of spacesuit, but in reality, they are divided into 2 distinct categories, each with its own specific purpose and function. This is the type of garment worn by humans during the process of launching a spacecraft, traveling into space, and on the journey back to Earth. The second type is specifically designed for spacewalks. NASA refers to the times astronauts exit the space station to work in space as extravehicular activity, or EVA. Therefore, this suit is commonly referred to as the EVA suit. The spacesuit used for spacewalks is essentially a miniature spacecraft. Shaped like the human body, it helps protect astronauts from the dangers of working outside their vehicle or on the lunar surface. It consists of 2 main components, the pressure garment and the life support system. The pressure suit is the form-fitting body garment within a spacesuit, designed to protect the body and support mobility. The main components of the pressure suit include the cooling garment, jacket, trousers, and helmet. The life support system is integrated into the back of the suit. That is a backpack containing the necessary items and equipment to operate the suit. Like oxygen, the fan has the task of circulating air within the suit and pushing carbon dioxide, CO2, outside. The backpack also functions to supply power to the suit, provide cooling water, and operate the heat dissipation system to circulate water throughout the suit. Additionally, it is integrated with a two-way radio for communication. NASA is currently developing a new spacesuit, specifically for spacewalking missions. In the Artemis missions, they are designated as XMO. In March 2023, NASA and its partner, the space company Axiom Space, unveiled a new spacesuit. The suit is equipped with many new features and advanced technology, allowing astronauts greater freedom of movement and providing superior heat protection compared to the suits used in the Apollo missions over 50 years ago. It features superior load-bearing capacity, is integrated with multiple protective layers, a life support backpack, and a high-resolution video camera with a light mounted on the helmet. Although spacesuits for extravehicular activities have been upgraded, they must still undergo a strict inspection process again before each use. However, during the execution of spacewalks, unforeseen incidents can still occur. In early November 2023, during a spacewalk, 2 NASA astronauts accidentally dropped a toolbox after one of them slipped. Specifically, on November 2, 2023, 2 NASA astronauts, Jasmine Mobley and Lauren O'Hara, conducted a spacewalk that lasted 6 hours and 42 minutes. Their task was to remove an electronics box, specifically the radio frequency unit, from its rack on the International Space Station. This is the first time 2 female astronauts have conducted a spacewalk, so a certain amount of awkwardness and anxiety was unavoidable. During a spacewalk outside the International Space Station, ISS, an astronaut slipped and dropped a bag of tools, causing it to drift away into space with no way to retrieve it. Currently, a bag of tools is in orbit around Earth, ahead of the International Space Station, ISS, with an apparent magnitude of about 6. This means it is only slightly less bright than Uranus, the 7th planet in the solar system. On social media platforms, many observers have posted images of an unusual object. Although it is quite faint to the naked eye, you can still observe it from Earth with binoculars. According to estimates, the aforementioned lost tool bag is expected to re-enter Earth's atmosphere and burn up in March 2024. Fortunately, this incident did not endanger the astronauts, but it exacerbated the existing problem of metallic space debris pollution above Earth's atmosphere. According to NASA statistics, from December 1998 to the present, there have been a total of 267 spacewalks conducted by astronauts at the International Space Station, ISS. The longest spacewalk in history took place on March 12, 2001, with a record duration of 8 hours and 56 minutes. Conversely, the shortest spacewalk lasted only 19 minutes and occurred on June 8, 2001. Spacewalking is a complex and high-risk task, but it is also an incredibly unique experience, like no other. As courageous and skilled astronauts, they are always ready to face the ever-present dangers of outer space. Therefore, it can be said that astronauts are truly the heroes of outer space. And what about you? What do you think of this work? Don't hesitate to share your thoughts with Hai Yen right below in the comments section. That's all for now. We look forward to seeing you in our next videos. Goodbye and see you again.